Alfred Williams is going to do guest introductions, and then Membership Recruitment Chair Elizabeth Clarkson is going to introduce us to our newest guests. So, Jeff, there you are. In your Fat Tuesday purple.
Yes, yeah. Natalie's a little shaken up because I've got the mic, so I told her I would stay with script today. That's unusual. Please join me for the 5-way test of the things we think, say, or do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Is it fun? Come on, y'all gotta do better than that. Is it fun? Yeah, that's good. Please join me in prayer. Dear Lord, let there be peace in our hearts, calm in our souls, and love in our being. Let us consider what is truly important and keep faith. Let us not forget to love one another and seek out joy. Bless this food for our use and us thy service. Help us to make every effort to live better lives. Amen. Join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good afternoon. First, I'd like to thank you, members, for writing so I can actually read these. Please hold your applause till everybody's introduced. Aaron Lubin brings Christy Putnam. Would you stand? Yeah. Amy Menz brings Robert Mowry. Is that correct? And Jesse Edmondson. Stacy Wilson brings Jack Thomas. Mandy Richardson brings Jill Capps. Let me see. Chris Baum brings George Weatherly. Chris Brown, it looks like, is brought by a member, Mimi San Pedro, and visiting Rotarian Hunter Sadler. That's it. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Rotarians. I'm pleased to welcome Jeff Tabor to Club 99. He is joined by his sponsor, Ross Burnett, and he is also sponsored by Jeremy Hill. Jeff is the Program Manager and Government Affairs Officer of MIMS. He has a BS in Healthcare Administration and is the Managing Paramedic Officer of the American College of Paramedic Executives. Jeff is entering his 28th year as a paramedic and 25th year with MIMS, and has served our country in the U.S. Navy Reserve for 23 years. He is currently the Command Senior Enlisted Leader for Naval Medical Forces Atlantic Reserve Component and holds the rank of Master Chief. Jeff and his wife, Sarah, have 2 children. For fun, he enjoys cycling, history tours, and being non-productive on the beach. I can second that as a fun thing for myself as well. Please join me in welcoming Jeff to Club 99.
All right, well, welcome, Jeff. We're super glad to have you in Club 99. Thank you, Jeff and Alfred and Elizabeth, for those remarks. All right, so for our Rotarians and Rotarians and guests, well, you Rotarians know this, but for our guests, each year we have a Rotary theme. This year it's the power of fun. So I give a little fun tip on how to have more fun in your life, and then we're going to share another great member video. So this week's tip is all about kind of a fun audit. So we've talked about fun audits at the beginning of the Rotary year back in July. We talked about kind of what a fun audit is, but I thought since we're halfway through the year, it's a good time to kind of check up on your fun. So how are we doing? Are we leaning into new things to figure out how to incorporate more true fun into our daily lives? And are we seeking delight in those small things and kind of using our digital Sabbaths to help us get back to our true passions and what brings us joy? So it's a good time to kind of check in. Self-reflection is probably, like for me, a kind of a go-getter, busy person. It can be challenging, and there's lots of busy types in the room today. So sometimes it's hard to kind of just get quiet and think, right? I'm also not really keen on New Year's resolutions because I usually never follow through on them. So I really liked Toby Fairley's tip earlier in the year. She spoke to the club, and she talked about having a word for the year. And for the word for the year for me, I decided to choose focus. And why I did that is really kind of focusing on the things that matter, focusing on the present moment, and what am I doing in that moment, whether it's a meeting or family time or meditation or working out or having fun, really focusing on that one moment and not a half a dozen other things at the same time. And Catherine Price, in her book, The Power of Fun, also talks about focus being a really important part of the journey of discovering what is fun for you and those fun magnets. And you can't really find out what's the right fun formula for you without some self-reflection, some focus, and frankly, some quieting of your mind. So in fact, Catherine talks about doing one thing at a time as being a precondition for flow. So we've talked about true fun as connectiveness, playfulness, and flow. And so being in that focused moment helps you with the flow part. So if you're folding clothes, just fold the clothes. I know that's hard, but if you're spending time with someone, just focus on them. Leave the phone aside. Don't let it ping you. Just be with that person. So the more that we practice this, really the easier it becomes. And it is definitely about practicing it. Doing one thing at a time is a great way to rebuild our attention span, because likely for everyone in this room, because our society is this way, there's just constant distractions, constant stimulations. So we do not have the attention spans that we even did 5 years ago. So focusing on quieting our mind is hard. We know this. I mean, it's really hard, especially in today's digital world. But the reward is so great. Remember, some of the best things in life require effort. They require some discomfort to achieve. So while focus, quiet, and maybe even some boredom may be a bit unpleasant, it can also be quite motivating. It leads us to figuring out what we really want to spend our time on, and we have the ability to build lives that are more conducive to fun, and that is what we all need. We need to clear space for activities that enliven us and then figure out what those activities are gonna be. So this quote was really good. A man who has worked long hours all his life will become bored if he becomes suddenly idle. But without a considerable amount of leisure, a man is cut off from many of the best things. So that is very true. So I hope that we just learn to do a little bit more focusing, clear our minds, and figure out what really does bring us joy. So today we're going to hear from a member that I think you'll really enjoy about what brings him joy.
My name is Mitch Bettis. I'm the owner of the Arkansas Business Publishing Group. We're a media and marketing company here in the state. And I have been the owner here for about 4 years. I've been at the company for more than a decade, and I've been in this industry for almost 35 years. And I consider that a lot of fun. But outside of this place, what I do for fun and what our family has done for fun is really tried to teach our young children that there is a much bigger world that they need to experience than what we might have here in downtown Little Rock or in West Little Rock. So about 20 years ago, a friend of mine told me he did this thing with his sons. And that thing was, when they turned 13, He took them anywhere in the world they wanted to go. And I thought, that's amazing. That is part of our just journey of trying to expose them to international travel and other culture. So we homeschool. So how this all sort of ties together is around 4 or 5 years old, we tell our kids, this is what we'd like to do with you. And then they begin to think about, well, what is it like in Brazil? Or what's it like in Russia or China or Lithuania or Nigeria? And we sort of work that into our curriculum. We study their customs and their culture. Through the years, they start thinking about the world in a little different place. And when they turn 13, they get to choose where they want to go. So we've done this with all 3 kids. I have a 21-year-old son who I would say is not necessarily the big planner in the family. He knew that he wanted to go to England, so he chose Birmingham and London, England. But then literally he put a giant map on a dartboard, threw a dart, and it landed in Madrid. So he got 2 stops on his trip. My middle daughter is now 16, but for her 13-year-old trip, she chose Athens and Paris, and we saw an incredibly different part of the world. And then my youngest daughter is 13. We just returned where she wanted to go, and she chose London and Paris. I guess you have to go to those places. One of the kind of beautiful things about this is to be able to see the world through their eyes. These are places they've heard about, things we've talked about for years leading up to this trip, seeing people in a different way, frankly realizing how much we're all the same. One of the interesting things about this trip is that the kids could choose any place in the world they wanted to go, except for Italy, because nobody goes to Italy until my wife goes to Italy. That was her rule and her trade-off in this journey.
Mitch.
And so in March, my wife and I are finally getting to take a trip to Italy. Turns out she's also 13. Now I know that sounds like a Southern story or an Arkansas story, but she's a leap year baby. So in February, she technically turns 14. So we have joked this is her 13-year-old trip, that we are finally getting a trip to Italy together, frankly, to celebrate our 25th wedding anniversary. But to be able to go to Italy, a different place in Europe, I think is going to be a lot of fun for the both of us.
I love that, Mitch. That's a very cool tradition with your kids. Thank you. All right, so now I'd like to invite past President Sonia Murphy and one of the darlings of Magnolia to the podium to introduce today's program.
Thank you, President Natalie. I'm not sure how darling I am, but I appreciate that. What Mitch said really resonates with me. It's very difficult to appreciate what you don't know. And growing up in Magnolia, Arkansas, and also having the privilege of returning there to start my career in banking, I so appreciate that area. And there are so many of us, and I know that you are too, that we're so excited about this pivotal opportunity that the lithium rush brings. And Magnolia and Southwest Arkansas are uniquely positioned. They're a very resilient community, they're innovative, and they're very, very passionate, as you will hear from our speakers today. Our moderator today is a longtime friend of Club 99 and Roby Brock, who is also the CEO of Talk Business and Politics. It's a 25-year-old multimedia news organization, and it reports on business and politics in Arkansas, which is always interesting, Roby. Under Roby's direction, content is driven through many channels, such as the Talk Business and Politics TV show. He's also the host of Capitol View, a Sunday morning political show on KARK Channel 4 in Little Rock and KNWA in Northwest Arkansas. He also has a footprint in the El Dorado, Monroe, Shreveport, and Texarkana markets, which will provide great insight on this topic. Roby, if you've not quite mastered the Arklatex accent, I can help you with that. Roby also moderates radio programs on NPR affiliates, statewide, and a daily digital newscast at talkbusiness.net. TBNP also reports through a subscription magazine, daily e-newsletters, and web reports featuring state business profiles, industry developments, and current political discussions. In September 2016, Northeast Arkansas Talk Business and Politics, a free monthly newsprint product, was launched, covering the entire state. And Robert Mintek, so glad to have you today. As the CEO of Standard Lithium, leads a dynamic team focused on the advanced development of U.S. critical mineral projects in Arkansas and Texas. Leveraging direct lithium extraction technologies, the collective effort ensures projects are adaptable and scalable. Robert fosters a collaborative environment, bridging the gap between his team and local stakeholders. Mission critical. Promoting shared success and risk management. His strategy and team-centered approach are pivotal in establishing Standard Lithium as a leading player in the development of a strong U.S. lithium supply chain, reinforcing the company's significant role in driving the sustainable future of U.S. lithium production. Ellie Baker serves as the Director of Economic Development for Magnolia. A Columbia County native, she is a former director of the Columbia County Chamber of Commerce and the Magnolia Blossom Festival. And if you've not been to the World Championship State Cook-Off, you need to go. It's amazing. The former mayor, George Wheatley, is here today, and he and I can speak, Ellie, to your rich family history and legacy of public service and making the community a better place. In addition to Ellie's duties as economic developer, Baker has led numerous community development and quality of life enhancement projects for the city. In 2023, Ellie was recognized as the Arkansas Economic Developer of the Year. Big deal. She is also a recipient of the South Arkansas Women's Network Career Achievement Award, a Paul Harris Fellow, something close to our hearts, and a graduate of the Community Development Institute, Jeff Ferris Leadership Program, and Leadership of Magnolia. Fellow Rotarians and guests, I welcome our very distinguished panel to the stage.
Well, normally I know that I'm going to have the best hair on the stage. I knew I was going to get a contest with Ellie today. I did not know Robert was going to give me a run for my money, so it's good. I also cannot pass up the opportunity being in the Clinton Library and it being the start of Mardi Gras here. Real quickly, to tell you a quick story. I got my start in politics actually working on the Clinton presidential campaign, helping plan the watch night party in downtown Little Rock. Raise your hand if you were strolling the streets or some of the parties that night. It was a big deal. It took us about 6 weeks to kind of get the planning for that. Little Rock at the time did not have any bike racks for crowd control. So we had to go find some from another city. I wound up finding some in New Orleans after searching for quite a while. So if you look back at some old pictures, you might see NOPD on some of those bike racks. So the way that it worked back then, in the old days, we just used to FedEx a check to someone to, get it done. So the New Orleans Police Department's gonna rent us 600 bike racks after I talked to this guy in the municipal police department down there, and he had a thick Cajun accent. And I said, how much is this gonna run us? We negotiated our price. It was like $6,000. It was quite a bit. And I said, well, I'll need to FedEx this check to you. Who do I make the check out to? And there's this long pause, and he says, just make it out to cash. So I don't think so. So, well, you can't fault a guy for trying. I guess New Orleans Police Department be fine. So I wound up doing that. So it was good. Happy Fat Tuesday, everyone. All right, Robert, Ellie, thank y'all both for being here. You both have traveled from far to be here, and we appreciate you guys making the time. And the rest of this week with the Lithium Summit coming up is going to be a really, really big deal. But so let's just get started. Robert, I'm going to ask you first, what is lithium? How is it extracted, and what is it kind of used for folks in the audience that might not know its repercussions?
Wow. Okay. I'll try not to go too far into the weeds, but I first wanted to comment on the title Arkansas Lithium Rush. We started the company about 7 years ago this March with a circle on the map of Arkansas is where we wanted to start. And there was 2.5 of us at the company, myself and the brains of the company, my partner, Dr. Andy Robinson. And it wasn't a rush. It was a crawl, trying to get any attention. Traveling the world over the last 7 years, pounding the drum for Arkansas as a great place to develop a lithium resource, having to highlight it on the map in Australia or in Asia or in Europe of where the projects were. But it has taken a life of its own over the last 24 months, and the summit we're putting on this Thursday and Friday, when we came up with a concept for it, I was worried we would struggle to get 50 people, and especially when they were putting a price tag of a couple $100 on per ticket.
Do you know what you're up to now?
Yeah, I know. So Jesse Edmondson, who's in the room today, he pretty much, along with the organizing committees, are responsible for that, but we're up to approaching 700 people, I think. So yeah, there is a rush now, but it was a crawl for a number of years. But lithium, yeah, it is the lightest of all metals. So the reason it's really important, being the lightest of all metals, it has the best energy storage capacity of any element on the periodic table. So over the last 30 years, it's become an important part of all technology. The semiconductor, probably the most important technology of the 20th and 21st century. There would be no advancements in mobile computing, social media, portable electronics, any storage without the lithium-ion battery. There's hundreds of them in the room today. I did an audit at home for a media piece that was being done on lithium batteries, and we did a count of inventory. I am a nerd and a geek, so I do have a collection of different technologies, but we had over 150 lithium batteries in the house, because you look at your AirPods are 2 batteries, your phone's a battery, your computer's a battery. I got a robot vacuum, that's a lithium battery. Everything technology-wise that's portable is a lithium-based battery. There's new technologies that are always being advanced, but lithium will always be the element of choice. Currently, the way it's mined or extracted, depending on the resource, is either through classic mining, which is usually done in Australia. They're great miners there. They dig a hole, and every day they dig a deeper hole, crush rocks, do some chemistry, and then they ship a concentrated mineral to China for processing. The Chinese have been active in this space and pretty much control most of the world's lithium supply and conversion because they've invested in and taken early risks at that. But the hard rock mining in Australia, almost all that production goes to China, and then it comes back in the form of a battery cell and goes into a piece of technology that you have. The other type of getting lithium is done through brine, which is what we're proposing in South Arkansas, but mostly it's done in or produced in areas in South America where they're fortunate to have lithium concentrations in areas with very dry meteorological conditions, arid desert areas where they can just pump the brine to the surface, let the sun evaporate water, concentrate the lithium to a point where they can then ship it in a form to China again to be processed into further battery chemistries. There's one small lithium production, commercial production in the United States today, and that's from brine in Nevada. It's been in operation for 60 years. It's a very small operation there, but that is the only area in North America really that's producing lithium. Outside of that, everything is going either from South America or Australia to China. What we're doing in South Arkansas is looking at lithium produced from brine, but you're not able to use evaporation here. It rains regularly. And it's also, the resource that we're looking to develop is 8,000 to 10,000 feet below the surface. It's currently producing brine for bromine extraction. Arkansas is #2 in the world for production of bromine. They've been doing it since the late 1950s. The brine that we're proposing to get lithium out of and that they currently produce bromine from was a nuisance to the oil and gas industry. So in the 1920s, when they discovered oil in South Arkansas, over a period of time, as they kept drilling deeper and deeper, they hit water, and that water was a nuisance, high salt concentrations water, and what could you do with it? But innovation, modern necessity, Murphy Oil, Arkansas Geological Society, and Great Lakes Chemicals figured out it was rich with bromine. Two companies currently, Albemarle, who's also the world's largest lithium company, and Lanxess operate two large facilities in South Arkansas, responsibly producing brine, extracting a mineral, and re-injecting the brine back into the subsurface. Minimal environmental footprint, which sets a global sort of stage for what we're proposing to do to extract lithium, because we have to do it in a similar way where you pump the brine to the surface, and to your note about direct lithium extraction, pull the lithium from the brine and then put that brine back in the ground immediately.
Okay. We'll come back to some of that process there. Ellie, when you first learned about, I guess, that lithium was going to be a natural resource that was going to be have this tremendous potential, you obviously are looking for all kinds of great things to happen in the economy in South Arkansas. What was your initial reaction when you learned about this? Was it tempered enthusiasm, skepticism, or did you just say, heck yeah, man, we're ready to roll?
All of it.
Yeah.
So as an economic developer, whenever you receive news of such large companies, in addition to the large companies that we already have in South Arkansas and in Magnolia, Columbia County, Union County, you get real excited that they want to be there for sure. And, you know, it just means growth. It means that we're going to prosper. It's going to mean all of these things. But then you're sitting there thinking, but what about everyone that's here that doesn't want anything to change? How do we balance the two? And so, you know, it's something that we were preparing for and we didn't even realize it. And so Magnolia has invested millions and millions of dollars in its infrastructure already with its wastewater and water. We have invested a couple of $1 million just last year in our parks, and again, this coming year will be another couple of $1 million. We have a plan, and it was a plan that we were not expecting to happen so late. We had a comprehensive plan that was passed last year in May for the city, so we know how we want it to lay out. We do know that we have a problem, though, with housing. And the thing about it is we want our counties to prosper. We want our towns to prosper. We want people to live in Magnolia, and we want them to love being there. We know that the jobs will be there and they will come, but what we're working on currently is people just falling in love with us, and you do whenever you come and visit us, but we want to entice everyone to come visit us. But housing is our number one. And so I think my initial reaction was everything you said, all in a train wreck, and then at the top of it came, well, where are they going to live?
You could do that steak cookout twice a year. That would help move some people there. I'm just saying. Tell me how you guys have interacted a little bit, just you knowing what's on the ground and in the ground there, Robert, and you understanding here's one of those big companies you're talking about that's looking to, you know, make an investment here. Kind of how did your initial conversations take off, and what did y'all talk about in the early days?
Yeah, the big company part, I think we're trying to reach that level. We're still.
I'm giving you a little license here, okay?
We did start with 2.5 employees 7 years ago. We've got probably 100 currently. About half of those.
Standard Lithium sounds like a really big company.
It was
Sometimes
a riff
it's
on
just a
Standard
name,
Oil.
so, yeah.
It was our aspirations. It was ironic, and you got to be careful what you ask for sometimes. But key to reasons why we chose the project, and it specifically South Arkansas, is it sits on a world-class resource, was an existing industry with the bromine industry, so specifically Albemarle who are in Magnolia. And just to give them full credit, they ran a lithium pilot plant in 2011, was one of the reasons we looked at Arkansas. Is Albemarle, who at that time wasn't in the lithium business, ran a pilot plant, successfully pulled lithium from the brine in Arkansas. So that was a really important reason why we looked at Arkansas and the existing bromine industry, so that having not taking anything for granted, but understanding that there's stakeholders who have a culture familiar with this industry and exactly what we were proposing to do, which was to replicate an existing industry and use that regulatory environment, the stakeholders' understanding of that, and then all the expertise that benefits that. So that was really attractive because lithium projects or mining projects, any project requires stakeholder support, and you have to engage at the community level. We've primarily been focused on our engagements in El Dorado because we have a demonstration plant that's tied into one of the bromine operations of Lanxess, so Albemarle's direct competitor. So we've been actively employing and training in El Dorado. We have a larger and much more investment-focused project or capital requirements project with what we're doing in Columbia County. So we just completed a significant amount of work to de-risk that. It timed along with the new entrants, ExxonMobil getting into lithium and Albemarle's attention being paid. So we're starting to spend a lot more time in Columbia and Lafayette counties. So we're beginning a process of stakeholder engagement. We held a stakeholder community meeting in Louisville, and just my little experience I've had with these meetings previously, usually it's an open house and you have a few dozen people come through for coffee and ask a few questions, but we had, I think, over 170 people show up. And
Were you offering free Burgess or what?
There was pie.
Okay, well, there you go. There was pie.
But that was just, it was a real eye-opener of how much attention is being paid on these projects. And to your points about housing and all those expectations, we really want to manage that because our approach from the way we're looking at building these is to do it, I wouldn't say use the word modest, but in stages, because you can't expect the communities or the stakeholders and everyone that's involved around it to have their lives turned upside down. And what we're doing is new. No one's ever done this on the planet before. So we're taking a measured approach on the capital deployment, but also on leveraging that existing industry. So not having to bring in new workforce, which is going to require housing hundreds of people. So working with existing contractors. That's just a benefit of working in an area where they've been doing this for 60 years for the bromine side. So managing those expectations as well so that working with the community as any housing expansion is required, that you're years ahead of that. We're aggressively looking to get production started in 2027 in Magnolia, but that will be stages of development. There'll be hundreds, potentially thousands of construction jobs on that, but we'll work with the communities to make sure that what's critical for our success is going to be critical for the community's support on that too.
Don't let me lose my train of thought on this phase one part of the process. So your early conversations here, what were your expectations? Is there regional kind of coordination going on?
There is.
And one other thing, just do you look at the oil and gas boom of 100 years ago as a blueprint, or maybe the Fayetteville shale play as a blueprint?
Yes. So Robert is more than correct, and managing expectations is what it's about. And you initially get this, on land, how much am I going to get? And I think that's probably where a lot of the attention has gotten, and having these open conversations with, with citizens. And that is really one of their main questions is how much, will you purchase my land for, my mineral rights or whatever. But managing the expectations of how many people are actually going to be working directly for these companies is one thing that we've been working on. How many of those are going to be contract workers that we already have into play? How many contract workers are going to need to come? Where are those contract workers coming from? How much housing are they going to be needing? Because everyone is going to be pulling at the same resources. At some point, I feel like it's all going to kind of come up to a point, and everybody's going to be kind of pulling at all our contractors. So, managing that is another thing. But as far as the public is concerned, I tell everybody that I come in contact with, just take a deep breath. It's going to happen very slow, and probably more chances than not, the average person won't even know what is happening or realize that it's happening because it already is happening. And it's just like driving down your street every day, and you just get so used to seeing, so-and-so's mailbox just, hanging there. Well, eventually you ignore it. Well, that's just kind of how, the public is. They drive down the streets and you tend to ignore what's even happening around you, regardless if that mailbox was fixed or not. And so being able to bring to their attention all of the things, it's like you have to constantly remind people, you have to constantly calm people down, you have to constantly get people excited, you have to, it is just such a balancing act in economic development, and I think working for city government in general. But we, as the city government, understands and have a very good understanding of to not over prepare. At the end of the day, we are not looking, for any one company to come save us. We're not looking for handouts. We want to be able to maintain whatever progress happens at, if there ever is an end, which there's an end to all things. We want to be able to know that we can handle that point going forward without anything being there. And so that is what we are working on now.
You're just on the table of contents. She's already writing the final chapter on you, man. Tell me about the phases of how you see this playing out. You have a vision, obviously, for how this is going to work. Hopefully it goes according to vision. There'll be a lot of planning on that. But you're in or I would call it the early stages of phase one right now. So what does phase one look like? Phase two, I don't know how many phases there are. 12.
Yeah, we're a development company, so we have to balance all of our objectives based on access to capital, investors' expectations, and then also what we're doing, no one's ever done before. So this resource is a very high-grade resource. It's the best brine resource in North America, but it requires a new technology to get the lithium out.
What is that technology?
So
It's a secret sauce.
yeah, so to some degree, it's called direct lithium extraction. We've spent 4 years operating a demonstration scale plant in El Dorado to refine and optimize and understand a process that's scalable. There's a number of different ways you can take lithium out of brine using an approach called direct lithium extraction, but can you actually make them run direct lithium extraction?
Okay, directly.
Yeah.
He said that really fast, and I was like, that's a
DLE,
foreign
I'll
word.
use the
so, okay.
acronym. But it is water treatment at the end of the day, and you have to be able to scale it and operate it at a large volume, thousands and thousands of gallons a minute of this highly salty brine running through the plant, taking the lithium out in real time, and then putting all that brine back in the ground. So having to do that at a commercial scale is a lot different than it is at a pilot plant or a demonstration scale plant. So we've spent a lot of time, probably $50 million at the facility in El Dorado to understand that. And that, because of the way we're building these projects, we know the resource is extremely attractive, high grade, in a region where permitting has set guidelines in place from the bromine industry and the Arkansas Oil and Gas Commission. Great understanding of what the geology, or what we call the hydrogeology, exists under the surface, but how you actually build these projects will be only unlocked using an extraction process. Our approach has been, if we can build off of an existing infrastructure, that'll be the fastest way to get into production. So what we're looking at in our project in El Dorado is tying into one of the bromine assets that Lanxess operates there. So we don't have to put the wells in. We don't need to do anything. I shouldn't say don't need to do anything other than, it's still a lot of work, but tie into an existing operation. So there's less risk on managing the resource, on the infrastructure, on the brine management. That's handled by the Lanxess. So that's a very small project, though. And it is, in resource terms, the lowest grade or the least economic. So it has the least reward for us, but it answers investors' questions, analyst questions. There's a lot of haters out there who want these projects to fail, don't want to see a new technology because of either existing interests or they just lack vision on these aspects. So that first project releases the question, or removes the question of, can you make this work commercially? The larger project that we're developing is in Magnolia. It's called the Southwest Arkansas Project. That project is 6 to 8 times larger than the one at Lanxess side. We're hoping to develop them in parallel, but there'll be a lag between them. So the operators, the engineering of how we build the extraction facility, will have a good handle on that commercially, and then we'll be looking to scale a much larger project in Southwest Arkansas, which may be built in stages as well. It depends on the commodity cycles as well. We've gone through a boom, and I hate to use the word bust, but a roller coaster on lithium pricing, $80,000 a ton for battery quality lithium chemicals in January 2023, $15,000 a ton in January 2024. So that's that commodity cycle you have to manage as well. So you don't want to overbuild if the demand isn't there, but you also want to be able to have the capacity to increase production when it becomes available. It's unique in South Arkansas in that you could build it in stages much quicker than anyone else looking to build a mine and do expansion from an open pit mine. And if you look at the brine projects in South America, you have to fill those ponds 12 months before you're going to harvest anything, possibly 2 years before you can harvest anything. So building in stages works for us because the technology is key to unlocking it, and then we know the resources are extremely robust. So we can, subject to access to capital, accelerate development or work in a more conservative method. And then also with regards to others that are entering the area, as you keenly highlighted, competing for talent, competing for expertise, labor, housing, all of those aspects will also mute any aspects as well. I just wanted to highlight when you mentioned the oil and gas booms, really the one thing we would point to is it's not reflective or comparable to those. It's more comparable to what South Arkansas built in the bromine industry. So that was built, very based on industrial demand. I wouldn't say that there was ever a boom in the bromine side. It's been a continuous business that they've been able to develop, operating for 60 years now, thousands of employees, and it's got another probably 50 to 75 years of life on those resources, and just built based on having a great resource, very economic, having the skills to be able to produce it, and doing that is probably the best analog to what we're proposing to do for lithium.
Ellie, I want to pose one more question to you, and then I'm going to open up to the audience, so get your questions prepared in just a second here. So you were talking about managing expectations. I know when the Fayetteville Shale exploded in Arkansas, I mean, literally, and this happened too back in the oil and gas days down in Smackover and El Dorado. Overnight, some people became like millionaires, multimillionaires, because of the mineral rights in their property or, oil was found and whatever. Are you expecting something like that in South Arkansas, or what should people expect, I think, when we know it is cooking on, a high temperature and things are really, really rolling?
Well, I have halted people from saying, well, if this happens, it's going to happen. I mean, lithium is there. It is in the process of being extracted. It is going to happen. At what extent and how large, and what are those mineral rights? What is, they haven't set the standard for what on the mineral rights yet. The Oil and Gas Commission has not set that yet. I think it's in April, right? It's whenever they're going to have another meeting on that. So we don't know. We don't know what that looks like exactly. I just tried to take people down just a little bit and say, just don't go and buy, don't go and just assume you have it. Number one, has anyone even contacted you about your land yet? Type things. It's just something that you hope people are cautious, like excitingly cautious. I think that having these open meetings with the companies have helped out a lot with those expectations, because I'm just one person. It does help whenever they hear from them and, really get a sense about what is going on and how long it's going to take, because with oil, it was like it happened immediately. This is not an immediate, type thing. It is going to take time, and I appreciate Robert explaining it more in the form of bromine instead of a boom or bust. Everybody has said boom or bust, and it's been all over all of the newspapers. And thinking about it more along the lines as it being the bromine is perfect. That's a perfect analogy, because Albemarle has been one of the most sustaining industries in in our area for Magnolia in employment. And, you know, they probably have 3 generations, just like Lance's probably has 3 or 4 generations of people that live over, or that work there. And those are the types of things that we need to start comparing this to instead of the boomer bust. So, Robert, if you don't mind, I'm going to steal that one.
All right, Aaron, you had your hand up. If anybody else, just raise your hand. I'll get around to you here.
What other businesses do you see coming down to southern Arkansas, contacting you, or have opened up? Because I would think there'd be a lot of related other businesses saying, hey, here's an opportunity to open up a business.
So just real quick before Robert gets to the actual ones that are needed, I have had a lot of calls, a lot of visitors asking so if someone just had some money to throw into a business, what kind can I start? I don't know. I mean, we need a bowling alley. That'd be good. But, you know, in all fairness, that's what families are going to want to do whenever they come to town. We need something for families to do. I don't think the people that are calling are necessarily wanting to go down that road, but we get those calls often. And, you know, I just tried to, unfortunately, Robert Morery, which speaks on Sanders' behalf, has given me his telephone number. And so I say, just call this guy, he'll tell you.
Yeah, one of the reasons or the ideas behind hosting this Innovation Summit this week was to draw attention on the region, Arkansas specifically, for what we call downstream investments. So an extractive industry selling a highly refined lithium chemical and shipping it to Asia for processing. If there's opportunities to bring those industries to the United States, and there's billions of dollars being invested in the downstream processing, Arkansas is a great jurisdiction to build it. Extremely business friendly. It's an area with highly skilled labor, very little red tape that gets in the way of starting a venture. You can look at Big River Steel and others that have been extremely successful here. So one of the highlights of this summit is to really, you know, beat the drum about consider Arkansas, Tennessee, Georgia, Missouri have all been looking at getting multi-billion-dollar investments in the battery supply chain, either through further refining and processing or assembly facilities. EV facilities are being built across the South as well. There's no reason why Arkansas shouldn't be considered. So that's one of the reasons what I've been doing when I've been out promoting our company for investment is also talking to battery companies and car companies and these industries to consider Arkansas. Because you've got water, you've got power, you have all of those things, and you're right dead center in the country for distribution. So there's numerous opportunities, along with the contractors and expertise required, the education for these jobs as well. Jesse's been doing a great job with outreach to the community colleges and the universities for the skilled labor that will be needed in the state, but also globally. There's not really an academic programs in place to address this industry because it is a brand new industry.
Arkansas Tech is putting something together on that. I know there may be some others as well. Have you gotten in trouble saying anything yet with the Securities and Exchange Commission, or are we keeping you out of trouble?
You already gave me a story about another company you spoke to.
I'm just making sure I haven't gotten you in any trouble yet.
I would just want to touch on that as well. Just kind of piggybacking off of that, as an economic developer in the state of Arkansas, you will not find a better team to work with than the state economic development team. And it is so easy to gain access to any one of our people in office. Hugh McDonald especially, he is, you know, you can call him on a cell phone. He doesn't mind. He'll talk to you. He'll talk to the company that wants to talk to him within minutes, and you cannot say that about every single state. We go other places, and it's just not the same. So even though Arkansas may be small, there is something to that in having all kinds of connections and being able to get business done very easy.
Yes, I'm wondering whether, from both of you, if you can address whether there is eligibility for any of the benefits of the Infrastructure Act or the Inflation Reduction Act to reduce the costs of developing this process and to help with housing or any of the things that you're talking about?
We're actively looking to pursue through the Department of Energy, the Department of Defense, and aspects of the Inflation Reduction Act. We didn't go to Washington with our handout looking for subsidies on the projects, and we've been told we're moving too quick, even though my investors tell me we're not, but we're moving too quick for a lot of the DOE programs. But we are actively looking at a current program for several $100 million, which includes a significant community benefits plan as well. Our teams are pulling that together right now. There's definite requirements on any of the programs that you have to be able to demonstrate a community benefit for that. So we are pursuing those within the Inflation Reduction Act. The final language is still being worked out, but there is within that likelihood that we'll be able to qualify at least for one aspect of it on the operating side of the company. But just to be clear, we haven't gone cap in hand looking for handouts because we believe the projects stand on their own. A lot of the attention from the federal government goes to California on a similar lithium projects. We think we have a much more attractive project and much more realistic as well. So any help you can muster, it's all beneficial. Yeah, no, but anything we can do, we're going to take advantage of those programs.
Yeah, if you're getting started in 2027 in the 2025 legislature, you'll get a tax break, I promise. So, yeah, Andrew.
Okay, there are some very, very smart people at ExxonMobil, as we all know, engineers and scientists, and they invested in the region in 2023. So I assume that's a good thing for the whole process. And as the second question, the spot prices for lithium are very, very low right now. Are you concerned about that long term? Or he can't say this, but I can. It could be a good time to buy the stock. I'm a 5-year shareholder. I watch all this very closely.
I'll just be careful. I didn't do a forward-looking statement at the start. Just on the pricing, yeah, spot prices in China get a lot of attention. And rightfully so, they are important, but they don't reflect long-term contracts that have to be signed on projects. You don't sell to the spot market. That's a trading that's being done in China. When you sell on a long-term contract, prices are fixed and they trend much higher than the current spot prices. The spot prices can be extremely high as well. Long-term fundamentals are extremely strong. The projects we're looking at right now, investor attention in the lithium sector, unfortunately, as to your point, has ebbed from where it was, but typically people get in at the high and not looking at the best time to get in at the low side. To your comment about the ExxonMobil team, globally massive energy company, hundreds of thousands of employees, I'd say we have the highest technical skills understanding the Smackover formation of any company, regardless of scale. I know the Exxon team, a great validation point for us was we had a lot of challenges from the market and others saying, if this is so great, why isn't anybody else doing it? I was like, okay, well, because they haven't caught up yet. But so that was a great validation point. We got a double Nobel Prize winner on our team, which is, I don't think any other company on the planet has a double Nobel Prize winner on their team. We've got incredibly advanced technologies on display in South Arkansas that you'll find nowhere else on the planet. We got a lot of work to do. But we're benefiting from Albemarle as well. World's biggest lithium company has got a massive operation in South Arkansas as well, and they're looking at developing the resource there too. But the spot price of lithium unfortunately gets a lot of attention. The fundamentals aren't changing, and that low prices beget higher prices, because what happened in 2017 when we started the company, we were in the middle of a bit of a frothy lithium environment. Prices had gone from about $5,000 a ton to $20,000 a ton, which was unheard of at the time. In 2018 and 2019, lithium prices went back down to $8,000 or $9,000 a ton. There was no investments being made, and that caused a huge run-up in prices in 2020 to 2022. So the current environment will cause lack of investment on a number of projects. Supply won't come online, and prices are going to skyrocket again. There will be an equilibrium, but new projects can't be built with people looking at what the current spot price in China is.
I did not know you were a double Nobel Prize
Not
winner.
myself-
You
not
should
myself.
add that to your resume for
Dr.
sure. Your
Professor Barry
innovations.
Sharpless,
All
he's
right.
on our chemistry side. Yeah.
We got one more question right back here.
I was wondering what the U.S. lithium extraction companies are doing to de-risk the fact that there's so much processing on the back end in China.
The market has been driven by China for the last 15 years. China's made investments in South America and locked up supply in Australia. So they're taking all the processed and unprocessed ore, refining it in China, and largely supplying their own battery and EV industry, but exporting to the world. The Inflation Reduction Act and other critical minerals policies are requiring end users, when they buy a vehicle, to look at, if they were looking to get a rebate, which is driving a lot of the EV sales, the companies have to show that they're sourcing it from areas where it's not a foreign country of concern. So there's now policies being put in place that are driving investments that will build the industry locally. There's nothing currently, if we were in production today for lithium, we would have to send the final product to Japan or Korea for processing. It wouldn't go to China. So those investments are just being made now. Tesla's putting in a massive conversion facility in Corpus Christi, Texas, where they'll be doing processing, taking ores from South America and China, potentially from this region as well. And that would be going into their supply chain. There's a number of investments being made in neighboring states for further processing. Those facilities won't be up and running probably till 2027 or later. But that infrastructure is being built now. But there is nothing that exists today. If we were producing today, we would have to ship it to likely Japan or Korea for processing.
Ellie, I'm going to give you the last word, 60 seconds. Plug the summit that's coming up on Thursday and Friday.
Yes, so unfortunately we're sold out, so it's not going to be much of a plug, but we are having the first inaugural Arkansas Lithium Innovation Summit on Thursday and Friday, the 15th and 16th. And we are going to have some worldwide leaders, I would say, in the lithium world, in the battery world, in the car world. And thanks to Jesse Edmondson, he was able to get us some great people to come to this summit and speak on behalf of what lithium in Arkansas is going to do for the world. And so I am very honored to be a part of the planning committee for that, as well as Robert Morery. I've gotten to know a lot of people due to being on this planning committee, and I am looking forward to a good time. We were hoping for just 250 people whenever Hugh called us all together, and it has turned into 630 and almost like front row seats to Taylor Swift concert. So we are officially sold out.
Will Travis Kelce be there? Will Travis Kelce be there? All right.
Travis is not going to be in
Mitch,
attendance.
your folks will be covering it, I presume. Yes, our folks will be covering it too. So arkansasbusiness.com, talkbusiness.net, you'll get a wrap-up of the 2 days there for sure. Ellie, Robert, thank you both very much. Thank y'all for your questions. Let's give them a round.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Roby, Robert, Ellie. Thank y'all so much. Just as a quick token of our appreciation, have a little something for you guys as our Power of Fun. You're so welcome. As our Power of Fun thing, we have a new mural down in our River Market District. So if you drive by, check it out, because it's all about big on fun and kind of ties into our theme. And that's a little piece that reflects the art. So thank you again so much for being here. Good luck on the summit. And I know we're all anxious to hear more about this topic. So thank you again. Really quick, I neglected to have Dan Parker and Mandy Richardson come up and make some quick announcements. Just, I guess I'm in Fat Tuesday mode already. I don't know. I'm losing my mind. So Mandy is going to come up, and then Dan real quick.
So we know people join Rotary for a few different reasons. Program, which was awesome today, community service, which Dan's going to talk about, and social, which is, all the fun. So we are planning a Top Golf event on Wednesday, February 28th. If you guys haven't gotten a chance to come out and check out the facility, we're going to do 2 hours of golf from 4 to 6. There will be a cost for members who want to join, but it's going to be a really fun 2 hours with some drinks included and food, and just a great time to be able to fellowship and network in our beautiful city and experience a new attraction. So Karen will be sending out an email with a link for you to be able to sign up, and the cost and the details, everything will be there, but we hope to see you in a few weeks. Dan.
Thank you, and I'll be brief. As everyone in Rotary knows, it's all about service above self. We've had a lot of projects and energy going into things during the week, but we want to do something on a weekend. And on Saturday, March the 2nd, from 8 until noon, we're looking for 12 to 15 volunteers to work on a Habitat for Humanity build in South Little Rock. So for those of you who can't participate during the week in a number of service efforts, here's a good time for you to get involved. Basketball, the March Madness hadn't started yet, and it's going to be a bad day for golf. It's going to be cloudy, and we're not going to be hanging sheetrock or slinging bags of mortar. It's going to be more low end. We could be helping to clean up the construction area. You could be painting a little bit, putting some putty up, but we're going to be doing a project that's going to put a family into a house probably in June. So we're kind of in the middle of it. Please sign up. There's a link that Karen has created on the weekly newsletter. Please join us.
Thank you, guys. We're halfway through our Rotary year, but we have so many more opportunities coming up on the social and service front, so these guys are a big part of that. Thank you very much. So look forward to seeing you guys next week. It's going to be another great topic. It's going to be a discussion with the Sasaki group who's doing the Downtown Master Plan. It'll be a great time to learn about what they've been learning about the city, putting together, and for you to give some feedback on the plan too. So I hope you guys will join us. So have a great week. Thank you.